Describe what you think the community would be like or miss if the Nucci Space had never shown up.
Oh, wow. At the extreme, most sad end, I would say there'll be an awful lot more people dead in this area.
Nucci Space is a nonprofit organization founded in 1999 in honor of Nucci Phillips, a student at the University of Georgia and a musician who committed suicide in 1996 after fighting an ongoing battle with depression. The organization, located in Athens, Georgia, provides low-cost mental health care for musicians with the goal of preventing suicide. In its 16 years, Nucci's has saved countless lives in the Athens community.
Nucci's my son, and he had suffered from depression for about 5 years. And he had made a serious suicide attempt in 1991. And that's when he started getting help. He was diagnosed with depression and started receiving help then. And did really well, came to University of Georgia in 1992. And he struggled. He had good times and bad times. And in 1996, I think he got tired and realized just how sick he was. And he had told us he did not want to spend his life in and out of hospitals. And I think he just really ran out of energy and he killed himself. So that was in 1996. And we knew that we wanted to do something to remember him. And he was a musician. And also, having suffered from depression, we wanted to do something with music and depression. And we wanted it to be something hands-on that went directly to the person who suffered from depression. So I just came up with the idea one day of founding a place where musicians can practice. And with the money that we made from practice rooms, we could use that to pay for the mental health counseling. And then that's how Nucci Space got started.
There are 1.5 million various types of nonprofit organizations in the United States, ranging from the arts and humanities to health and education to advocacy and professional associations. Many of these organizations are created to address important community needs. Unfortunately, some of them fail to reach their full potential and close soon after they are established. As Nucci Space celebrates its 16th anniversary, we explore 4 of the common challenges nonprofits face and how Nucci Space has dealt with them.
Obviously, I knew nothing about starting a nonprofit. This is something I never even thought about doing. So when I came up with the idea to do Nucci Space, I talked to our family lawyer. And one of the things he said, you know, first we'll establish the Nucci Phillips Memorial Foundation, and that's what we did. And then the next thing we did was to get our 501c3 tax-deductible paper from the IRS. That was not easy. One reason it wasn't easy was it's always been really hard to articulate what this place is all about, and a lot of people don't get it. They don't get the why music and mental health. They don't get the connection.
Linda Phillips faced a lot of challenges when it came to starting Nucci Space. Just the logistics of where do you build it? How do you build it? What does this building need? Where should we divide the walls? How should we soundproof the rooms? Where does this go? Where does that go? How do we become a nonprofit? How do we fund this thing? How do we convince people to give us money? How do we decide who gets what link to what kind of help and how much it costs? So there are a lot of little things that go into running something like Nucci Space.
The executive director of a nonprofit organization is responsible for administration and strategic planning. The executive director is typically a talented individual with skill sets in business and leadership operations, coupled with an educational background in administration or management. The executive director is responsible for the hiring of staff members, fundraising, budgeting, collaborating with board of directors, and completing operational responsibilities. Ultimately, executive directors are tasked with carrying out the mission, vision, and goals of their organization.
As far as running the space, I didn't want my face on it. I wanted other musicians. I wanted this to be a place run by peers because that's what's going to attract musicians to come into the space.
I first learned about NutriSpace through a fundraising event they were having at the 40 Watt. I was working at the Last Resort Grill at the time. I was heavily involved in the music scene, being a musician and helping with things like AthFest and that sort of thing. And I didn't meet Linda that night, but I got her email address. And I emailed her and we kind of started a relationship.
He sent me an email saying he liked what he'd read and was very interested in wanting to help and wondered if he could meet me. So Bob and I met, and the thing I loved about his email was it was written in a very thoughtful, sincere way. And so Bob and I met, and it just, I think we hit it off from the beginning.
I credit Linda's lack of hiring skills. Had never run a nonprofit before, so. But actually the thing that I'm very thankful for is that she saw something in me that I hadn't seen yet. At first it was just Linda and myself, working most days, and the building hadn't been renovated yet, so I worked out of my house and would come here and make sure doors were being put in the right places and that sort of thing. So, I've kind of learned on the job.
When NutriSpace first started, the organization was Linda. That's all there was. And then Linda recruited a few other people to come together around her as a small cadre of advisors. She needed a director, and she found Bob, or I think Bob may have found her, and he was the perfect man for the job.
You've got to get the right people in the right seats on the bus, and then you go. But people, it's everything.
My job as an executive director is mainly to hire really great people and make sure they have the tools to do their job that I asked them to do, and make sure that that job is clearly laid out, and then get out of the way. Our staff has grown from basically me being this sole employee to we have 4 full-time staff and 5 part-time staff, which is still a small staff for the number of hours that we're open, but it's we've grown pretty dramatically.
Fundraising is often cited as the biggest challenge nonprofit managers face. Nonprofits receive funding from a variety of sources, including individual donors, foundations, and the government. It can be difficult to convey a nonprofit's mission in a way that is appealing to such a broad range of potential funders. This challenge affects nonprofits across the board, from small, new nonprofits to well-established multinational organizations. Changes in the donor priorities, the economy, government policy, and administration can affect a nonprofit's funding. Raising money is an ongoing challenge.
One of the things I hate most in life is fundraising. I do not like asking for money. And that's not a very good thing when you want to start a nonprofit.
Trying to figure out who we are and what we do, and then most importantly, how do we tell other people that? And until you can do that, it makes fundraising very, very hard. So money was another big obstacle at first.
I wrote a letter to everybody I knew and or ever even looked at or smiled at, and telling them what I wanted to do and asking them to help me with money. And I got back $30,000 from that.
And because we built a reputation, it makes fundraising a little bit easier, but it's always still hard. 70% of our income comes from individuals, so it's every January 1st, it's a battle to get the budget that we set out to do.
Nonprofit organizations are required by the IRS to have a board of directors. The board of directors is a body of elected or appointed members who jointly oversee the activities of an organization. While the role of the board varies depending on the nonprofit organization, each one has fiduciary, legal, and ethical responsibilities. For new nonprofit organizations, these boards are often comprised of friends and acquaintances of the founder. While this satisfies the legal requirement, the most beneficial boards are often made up of a diverse group of people who can provide a variety of strengths, personal networks, and varying viewpoints and opinions to the organization.
I think the board has probably been has had the greatest amount of change since we've been open. As it is with most beginning boards, it was mostly Linda's friends when we first started out, and that is great in some ways because you have a whole group of loyal people that will show up and be cheerleaders. But the unfortunate part about that is they're not really good at governance, especially in something that is so closely tied to the founder. No one in those beginning stages would ever tell Linda no.
The board of Nucci's Space over time has gotten bigger and more diverse, and as it has, I think it's absolutely made things run better at the space because you just have a wider arsenal of ideas to pick from.
Succession planning is a process for identifying and developing new leaders who can replace old leaders when they leave. The absence of a succession plan can undermine an organization's effectiveness and its sustainability. During times of transition, a good succession plan can foster a sense of security and stability in staff members and external stakeholders.
Think of succession planning as you do from day one. I want people to feel that, first of all, they're invested in what we do. And so there's not an aspect of Nucci Space they shouldn't know about. And that we also should know what other people's jobs are, and that we are a team.
What I really wanted to make sure was, we didn't look to found something that would last in our lifetime and then be gone. We wanted something that would have a longevity and would continue on.
Founder syndrome is a popular term for a difficulty faced by an organization where a founder maintains a disproportionate use of power and influence in organizational decision-making. The founder's transition away from the organization can be a defining moment in the nonprofit organization. If a founder holds too much control over the operation of the organization, this pivotal change could lead to the organization's demise. Careful planning and forethought can prevent this phenomenon.
The best thing that Linda did is lead by example, and to always put the mission of the space and the people that it helps above any personal agenda.
Although it was difficult for Linda to leave, she knew it was time, and she knew that Nucci Space was in good hands.
So to get to that place where you have to basically step away and let it kind of thrive on its own, I can only imagine how difficult that is.
But I realized it would be easier for the board to make certain decisions without having to worry about what Linda would say, in a sense, or not making a decision because they think Linda may not agree. That kind of thing. Also with the staff, as long as I was here, the staff looked at me as the boss rather than at Bob. And Bob, you know, he was the boss. I think one of the things that I attribute our success to is so simple and so basic, and it's really just common humanity.
Really the foundation of how Nucci Space works is incredibly simple. It's, you know, basically being kind to one another. You know, somebody comes through the door, you want them to feel welcome. And if they need help, you treat them the same way you would treat a friend, you know. And this isn't a business for us. This is, you know, we're trying to help people.
The best advice I can give to any nonprofit organization is to find a way to let the maximum number of people take ownership in the program, encourage people to get involved, present people with opportunities to volunteer, present people with opportunities to give whatever it is they can afford, even if that's $5 or 5 minutes of their time. People seem, you know, buy into and believe when they feel like they're part of something, and I think that's an atmosphere that's absolutely been fostered by Bob and Linda's leadership, is that the more people that are involved, the more people that feel like they are Nucci Space, the better off we are, the stronger we are, the more successful that we are in our mission. And I do think that would be true of any nonprofit organization.
And your staff have to feel as though they're part of it. It's like, I feel that I am NutriSpace and everybody else here is NutriSpace, and you being involved in this makes you NutriSpace. The community is NutriSpace, and we're all invested in making this organisation the best it can be.